Brothers, too many of us walk around every day guarded about our emotions. Far too many of us have been told throughout our lives that in order for you to truly be a man worth being celebrated, you have to be stoic. You have to be a rock. You have to be a hunter. And a hunter is void of any feelings and simply moves through life without displaying any outward emotion, especially when it comes to shedding a tear. Most of us have been told that men don't cry, and this is why so many of us struggle to be human. And sadly, we've been dehumanized due to being taught outdated concepts of manhood. Crying is not only what human beings are allowed to do, but healthy humans should do it. Crying allows us to shed the kind of toxicity that needs to be released in our body, minds, and spirits. Because we perceive crying to be a weakness, it often leads us to die undue spiritual deaths. In this third episode, I hope to help us rebrand manhood as we give ourselves permission to simultaneously be the human and the hunter. I truly believe that this will lead us to live happier and healthier lives. Hey, everybody, how's it going? As I always say in these episodes, even though this has been specifically curated for men, it really can be applied to anyone's life. We're going to go into something that I think is going to help every man in their walk. I know it helped me a tremendous amount. And every time I have this particular discussion with brothers about their walk and about how challenged it is from day to day, one of the things that I continue to uncover in these conversations is the fact that so many of us are denied the right to be human, particularly as Black men. Black and brown men specifically really have a hard time with this particular phenomenon of being denied our own humanity, because life every single day sort of dictates that we ignore some of the things that we should be able to feel and some of the things that we should be able to deal with as human beings. And one of those things really, I think, is sort of like the scarlet letter of manhood, and that is crying. I know that me personally, and I challenge you to ask any of your brother friends if any of them have had this experience. At some point in our lives, someone has told us, usually at a pretty tender age, when you're an adolescent, that men don't cry. As we're sitting here right now, as you're watching this, you're shaking your head because you've heard that yourself. As we're sitting here and we're shooting this, my producer Tillman is in the room. And he's sitting there, he's shaking his head because there isn't a single man that I have ever encountered in my life that didn't hear that at one point or another. And the reason why that's important is because we are often celebrated. We're taught that everything about our manhood stems from this idea of us being more of a hunter rather than a human. In every single sector of our lives, we are celebrated for being the hunter. When we pursue women, to be honest with you, the women who, whether they're in our lives for a brief stay or the duration, most women will celebrate us for showing up as our hunter self as opposed to our human self. We see it every single day. Every single day. I'll give you an example. I've played basketball my entire life. Played at a pretty high level. And so I always give examples about these things that we touch on through the lens of sport, because we understand that. Luka Doncic recently went back to Dallas for the first time. For those of you who don't know, he was traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers and went back to Dallas for the first time to play. And they paid tribute to the years. I think he played 8 years in Dallas. They paid tribute to his contribution to the Dallas Mavericks organization by playing this video about his accomplishments, the things that he had done on the court, and he got very emotional while they played this video. I was really happy to see, and surprised actually, at how emotional he allowed himself to be during the playing of that tribute video. It's probably almost a 3-minute video that played. And there were times where he was so emotionally invested in it that he had to put his head down. He had a towel. He was wiping his eyes because he was crying. And I remember sitting there watching it going, wow, this is going to be very interesting, because in a few short minutes, he's going to have to go from human to hunter. See, when you're a competitor, you're expected to be the hunter. That's the part that gets celebrated. See, he was celebrated in Dallas, here in Los Angeles, for being the hunter. When you score 30 plus points a game, when you go out and you rally up a triple double, that's being a hunter. You're constantly going to be celebrated for that. Very rarely do men ever get celebrated for being a human. So as I sat there and I watched him, I was trying to figure out how he was going to properly transition from being human to hunter. And boy, did he ever. As soon as he got into his huddle with his teammates, you could see him literally begin to transform. And I think he scored 45 points in that game. He was killing the Dallas Mavericks because he wanted to show them, you guys made a gigantic mistake. Now that, as men, we understand that. We understand the retribution. We understand the get back. We understand the revenge. Why? Because that's what hunters do. We go out and we get a kill. Very rarely do we understand the human part, particularly in the vein of giving ourselves permission to cry. I'll give you another example. Matt Barnes, who's a brother friend of mine, actually. I love this brother. His sons and my son actually competed against each other playing basketball. My son eventually moved on to become an accomplished junior, and his sons are still accomplished basketball players as juniors. And I've known this brother for quite some time now, and I love him because I understand his heart, and I understand his family. I understand the struggles. And so when I speak about him, I speak about him as a loving brother. And he got together with another brother friend of mine, Jason Wilson, who ironically wrote the book Cry Like a Man. And Matt was talking about the fact that he literally asked him, he said, How do you allow yourself, how do you get to a space where you allow yourself to cry? How do you do that? Like, I haven't done that in 30 years. As soon as I heard him acknowledge the fact that he hadn't cried in 30 years, it almost moved me to tears, because I knew that my brother was a human being who was suffering from the condition of not giving himself permission to be human. It's probably one of the things that assails us as Black men more than anything else. Lacking the permission to be human. He asked my brother Jason, he said, how do you get to that place where you allow yourself to cry? I don't even know how to cry. He said, I mean, technically I know how to cry because I've cried before, but and my brother Jason went into it perfectly. And I'm paraphrasing, but essentially what Jason said to him, which is what I would have said to him in conversation, was, the reason why you can't cry is because of what your perception is about what crying represents to you as a man. As soon as we were told that men don't cry, once you get that in your head, every time you come to a space where you're about to cry, you're immediately fighting it back. Why? Because of your perception of what crying represents. Crying represents weakness for men, which is why far too many of us don't allow ourselves to do that. And I would wager to say that the reason why our sisters, our female counterparts, why they live longer lives, even healthier lives, not that they necessarily make better food choices, even though sometimes that can be it, that they have better exercise habits, although sometimes that can be it. I think that by and large, women allow themselves the permission to be human by crying. If you are a divine being, and I don't care what you believe in, I believe in God. I believe that divine being created me, another divine being. If your creator, or whatever it is that you believe, that you've come to have life, there's no way that you can possibly believe that you were given tear ducts if you were not meant to cry. It shouldn't make sense to you. It's just not possible. And there's science that backs up everything that we're talking about. The science behind giving yourself permission to cry looks something like this. First of all, let's talk about the benefits of it. If we're talking about mood, right? This actually will begin to affect your mood, because when you cry, it's going to release endorphins and oxytocin, right? And those particular things actually will change your mood and put you in a better space. It will relieve stress. Relieve stress. When we talk about things like detoxification, do you know that in your tears, you actually will release toxins? You actually will release stress hormones. They're actually in your tears. So when you don't allow yourself to cry, you are literally housing stress hormones and toxins in your body that are dying to come out. It's an absolute fact. This is science. This is science. When we talk about things like relieving cortisol, which is another stress hormone, right? When we relieve cortisol by crying, for all of you workout buffs out there, right? And, I've talked about this before. My producer, Tillman, and I, we work out every day, Monday through Friday. Shout out to our brothers from the yard. We work out every single day, right? Cortisol is not your friend, because cortisol is going to either make you fat or keep you fat. So to all of our, workout buffs out there, to all of our folks out there that are looking to be healthier, if you want to get cortisol out of your life, allow yourself to cry. Because that is going to relieve that stress hormone. And lastly, let me just say this. Crying actually will make you sleep better. You ever heard the expression, man, I cried myself to sleep? Yeah, because it's going to neutralize all of that stuff that's happening in your body and calm you down. In order for you to get great sleep, you got to be able to be calm. That cry will make you calm and subsequently allow you to sleep better. I don't know about you, but I am all for better sleep. As much as we work out, look, in order for your body to grow, in order for your body to repair, what does your body have to do? Does your body grow and repair as you work out? Absolutely not. Does it grow and repair while you're awake? Absolutely not. Your body grows and repairs when you are in sleep, and deep sleep. The deeper your sleep, the better your chances are of your body being able to repair itself and to grow. So crying plays an extremely important role in all of this. So can you imagine all of these years? Think back to the time where you first heard someone say to you, men don't cry. It's literally been decades, probably, that you've been cheated out of being human, that you've been cheated out of being healthy, that you've been cheated out of being happier. Simply because someone said to you, men don't cry. And as soon as you heard that, that cheated you out of being human. I can't tell you how much I try to keep myself in a space of being balanced by being all parts human and all parts hunter, right? The example that I gave you about Luka Doncic, the example that I gave you about my brother Matt Barnes, right? In order for us to be the men that we are being called to be every single day, I know that me being created by God, the intention behind my creation was about the balance that I draw in being all parts human and all parts hunter. I got 2 kids at home. I got a wife at home. They are not going to be loved by the hunter. They're going to be loved by the human. They're going to be protected by the hunter, and that is a show of love. But in order for me to really be the kind of nurturing being that I've been called to be, I got to do that from a place of being human. When I talk to my daughter, there's no way that I can fortify my daughter by speaking to her from the perspective of the hunter. I got to be able to speak to her from the perspective of being the human. Now watch this. I'm teaching my son how to be a hunter. I told you, he's an accomplished junior golfer. When you compete in any sport, you got to learn how to be a hunter. So yes, every single day, I am teaching him how to be a hunter, how to go out on the golf course and hunt, how to compete. That is being a hunter. But at the end of the day, when he's finished, when he's got to give an interview, the person who's interviewing him wants to hear from the human. They already saw the hunting. So they already know that the hunter exists. Now, when they sit down, they want to sit down across from the human. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I don't think we can get away from it. You know, recently, a very famous podcaster, broadcaster, got into some trouble with a woman that he was dealing with sexually. And while I'm obviously not going to make any statements about who was right, who was wrong, whether he deserved whatever it is that he gets from that situation, I will say this. The reason why he is in any trouble is because he leaned in on the hunter more than he leaned in on the human. And that is the tale of every single man who goes through a period of his life where he feels a profound downfall. Every single man that you can think of who went through a space where they experienced profound downfall, it was because they were leaning in on the hunter and not summoning up the human. Because at the end of the day, you are going to be called to represent yourself, represent your family, represent your company, represent your business, represent all of the things that you have in your life. And the hunter, if the hunter is called to represent you, you're absolutely going to get yourself into trouble. Absolutely. So this is a cautionary tale for all of us because we have far too many examples of it. So just remember, every single day, as you call the hunter to represent you when it is necessary, just make sure that the human is somewhere close by, because he's going to be the one that ultimately will keep you from getting yourself into trouble. If you can be balanced in your human and hunter life, allow yourself to cry, you're going to live a happier and healthier life. That's a promise. See you guys on the next episode of The Meal Plan.